Hi, everyone. This is Java with Women's Net. Welcome to our webinar on marketing and websites. So today we're going to learn a little bit about websites, how we can make them better so that the person that's on your website actually enjoys being on your website and then will convert into a customer for your service or your product. And so to share with us this valuable information, we have with us Melissa, who is the managing director with Accelerate Media. And we also have Sarah, who's the digital marketing director with Accelerate Media. And so we are so excited to have you both with us today. Thank you for taking a little bit of time today to coach us through on how to have some dynamic websites that convert. So thank you. And I will go ahead and put you on stage right now.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Jonna. As Jonna said, we are here to talk about user experience. Let me share. About that. Okay. No,
It says off stage. How do you? Thanks, Jama.
There it is. User experience, what it is, why it matters, and how to improve it. As Jonna said, we are from Accelerate Media. We are a results-driven, metrics-based, award-winning website development and digital marketing agency based in Rochester, New York. We've been around since 2008. So we've got a lot of websites under our belt. I am Melissa Lord, Managing Director. I have 31 years of marketing, branding, and advertising experience, and I've been with Accelerate Media for 12 years.
And I am Sarah Triano, the Digital Marketing Director for Accelerate. I have 18 years of experience in marketing, advertising, promotions, media, and I've been with AM 5 years now.
Okay, so let's get right into it.
So what is user experience? The dictionary defines user experience as the perception and response of a person toward the design elements of software or digital media while interacting with it. Obviously, this is very specific to digital media. We'll be talking about your website specifically, but user experience in the real world is really all aspects of a person's interaction with your product, your service, or your company. So again, this presentation is specifically about your interacting with your website, but a user experience can be anything from going to the movies to how your airport or travel experience was.
Why does user experience matter? Well, it matters for a few reasons. Number one, for people. As Sarah just said, it is about the experience of the interaction with your brand or your website or whatever. You want that to be good so people are left with a good impression of who you are, what you do. It is also important for bots, those things crawling the web, to find relevant answers for search queries. So generally speaking, things that make a website have a good experience for users also please the bots and will help you show up higher in search results. And finally, it's good for your business. For both of those reasons, the easier your website is to use, the more likely it is that people will convert and do the things that you want them to do.
How can you improve your user experience? Today, we're going to go over 5 key things that you can do with minimal help from an agency or a partner. The first is be clear versus clever, boost performance, don't forget mobile, ensure accessibility, and reduce friction. There are many things that you can do to improve your user experience, both on and off your website. These are the 5 that we're going to focus on for this presentation because they're the 5 that can get you the fastest results to conversion.
And also, Each one of these 5 has multiple sort of facets to it. We're going to talk about a few bullet points for each one because we have 15 minutes, and so as not to overwhelm. So number 1, be clear versus clever. It is very important that you clearly state who you are and what you do and what you want your visitors to do. If you don't do that, they're not going to know. So you need to be clear about your purpose and your goal. Who are you? What do you do? What are you trying to get your users to do? The navigation labels on your site are important. You want them to be clear and understood right away. You don't want people to have to wonder what it means. Similarly, the call to action text. So this is the text on your buttons or whatever it is that leads someone to do the next thing. There's a lot of research around good words to use and improving the click-through rate on those things, but it is imperative that it's understood. If it's a product, it's add to cart, or if you're trying to send someone to a store, shop now. You don't want people to have to wonder what they're going to do when they click that button. So this is a bad example, a before example. This client came to us with, well, they didn't realize they needed a rebrand, but they got one. So they had 2 different sites. This first on the left is their main site. And it does say here more or less what they do. But this navigation up here, I don't know if you can read it, but at the top this says membranes. Now, I don't know that I would know what that was if I clicked on membranes. And most of the content on the front page is news, which is not helpful to the consumer right away. This was their e-commerce site, which was a companion to it. A little bit clearer in terms of what you're getting when you click on these things, but this main thing, not so clear. There's some empty stuff down here. It's all just sort of not clear. So this was our rebranded website homepage. We combined the 2, so you go to one place and you can buy and learn at the same time. Very clear navigation, very clear statement of what they do and why and how, and a clear shop button. And then when you get to the shop page, also very clear which categories, what products you're going to find there, the ability to filter by application or material.
UX tip 2, boost performance. So statistically speaking, the probability of a bounce increase is about 32% between when people have to wait between 1 and 3 seconds. So 1 second of delay equals a 16% decrease in satisfaction and a 5% loss in conversions. So when we talk about boosting performance, we're specifically talking about how your website functions and loads. There are several things that you can do to help this. You can optimize images. You can install a performance plugin or extension. You can enable caching, and you can monitor your core web vitals. So many optimization recommendations are around code minification, may require a developer, but there are several performance plugins or extensions that you can help and can utilize. Core web vitals is a important metric for Google Search Console. It measures 3 separate things. It's your largest contentful paint, your cumulative layout shift, and your total blocking time. Now, I know, what does that mean in layman's terms? So this is basically how long it takes the largest image on your page to load, whether or not your content shifts on the page as it's loading. It's typically caused by slowing down or slow loading images, and then how long it takes the website to be responsive to users after it's loaded. The example we have here is one client who, TimeDoc Health, that had numerous issues on the back end with their site, including a content management system that was quite heavy. But one of the other major issues was the size of the images on their site. So instead of uploading a large photo to your media library and trying to make it fit into the space on your front end, uploading the right size image from the start can really save some of your total block, your largest contentful paint. For example, just by editing this JPEG from a JPEG to a WP format, down to the correct size that would fit on the page immediately. We did that not just for one image, but for several images across the site, and we're able to increase their core web vitals.
To passing, which is
To
quite a
passing,
feat.
yes.
So many content management systems will let you upload a photo of any size and edit it right in there to fit the space. But if you do that, the largest image is still saved on your site. And
Right.
so every time the site loads, it needs to load that full image before it can, then show a smaller version of it. Tip 3, don't forget mobile. The majority of your users are probably on mobile devices. You need to optimize for their experience. As of today, mobile devices account for a significant portion of website traffic. For B2C businesses, it's often more than 50%, and globally, it's even higher. So desktop traffic is still important, but if you're not optimizing for mobile, you are leaving money on the table. How can we do that? Responsive text and images, which is a lot of this is built into most platforms now. Touch-friendly design, meaning if someone's using it on a phone, the elements can't be so close together that they're touching the wrong thing. Adjustments, navigation, and content flow. This is dependent on your situation, but if someone coming to your site on mobile is going to have a different purpose than coming to you on desktop, you might want to rearrange the navigation so the first thing they see is the thing that they're coming for. For example, directions or contact button. Mobile features, things like click to call, where if you're on a phone and you click a phone number, it will call it for you, so you don't have to remember the phone number and click it, put it into the buttons. Similarly, if you say find us here and you have your your address, that can link to a maps interface with directions already pulled out. So here are 2 examples. We don't have after examples for them because we didn't get to redo them yet, but on the left here we have a non-responsive site. It's unusual that you find many of these anymore. It's a single page site that when it shrinks down to this size is basically illegible and not usable. Over here this site is responsive, but it's sort of a cautionary tale because as it responds down, a couple things happen. Up here, see the title it gets overlaid on something where it's completely not legible. And then, I don't know if you can see this says left column. This is a label that is not visible on the desktop, and I'm sure is not intended to be visible on mobile. So it's just even if the site is responsive, you need to look at the elements and see how they fall when it does respond. Here's a good example. This is a client of ours. This is the desktop version of this site with a very robust navigation with drop-down menus and lots of things under each one. On mobile, they simplify it right down. There's no drop-downs here. It's just the basic labels. Then when you click into, for example, fantasy football tools, you get this slide out of the submenu there with filtering, collapsible sections. It's incredibly user-friendly and very easy to use.
UX tip number 4, ensure accessibility. So making your website accessible to people with disabilities gives everyone a better chance. If you've ever heard of something called the curb cutting effect, you'll understand a little bit more what I mean. So after the introduction of the ADA and the Americans with Disabilities Act in the 90s, it was mandatory that all crosswalks used ramps or curb cuts to help people in wheelchairs cross safely. But these ramps also help everyone. They help parents with strollers, people with luggage, delivery people. By implementing those curb cuts, they've made life better for everybody. So similarly, ensuring that your website uses ADA best practices means that all users benefit from better text contrasts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's appropriate contrast ratios, minimum font sizes, captions and alternate text, and logical content hierarchy and structure. So here we have an example of one of our clients, the Finger Lakes Wine Country. This is a before example of a snapshot of their site. here it's, it's not a bad looking site. Right off the bat, you wouldn't look at this and say, this isn't accessible, except that when you put it through an accessibility program, you find out that the logo colors themselves actually aren't accessible, even on a white background, thanks to a low contrast ratio. The legibility of the title or caption over the image is very low. It's almost, I know what it says, and it's actually hard for me to read from here. And then the heading hierarchy is out of order. So that dive deeper is actually an H3, and then the H1 for the page, which is one of the most important elements for your SEO performance, is actually below the H3, which is really, from an SEO standpoint, a no-no.
Also, for people who are using screen readers,
Mhm.
that helps the screen reader know what is the most important thing on the page, and it helps structure the content underneath it so that the person listening, so it makes sense in order for the person listening.
Correct. So what we did is we tweaked the brand colors to slightly darker green for a more accessible contrast ratio. We used a larger font size for those hard to read brand font, and added a drop shadow in the back for added legibility. And then we adjusted the H1s and the H2s and the H3s on the page so that screen readers could more clearly decipher what was on the page, and also so could the Google bots. So this UI kit created, before we even started design on the new website, really helped us identify what the non-accessible contrast combinations were and what the accessible ones would be. And then we could make the adjustments that we needed to the overall brand palette to make sure that everything matched this standard moving forward.
And then this sort of became our guide for our designers and developers as we would build out next pages and other sections that, we know what we can and can't put together in terms of colors. Tip number 5, reduce friction. Don't make people think or work too hard. Converting should feel natural and effortless. This seems like it goes without saying, but there are small things at play that contribute to adding friction that you don't realize. I will say too that all of the 4 tips before this were all sort of about reducing friction in their own way, or rather things that you can do to reduce friction also improve those things. But generally speaking, you want to use familiar shapes and user interface patterns. For example, on mobile, you often see the navigation collapse into what's called the hamburger, those 3 lines. People now know that means that's the menu when you click on that to expand it. Similarly, excuse me, you don't want to use an icon to mean something that your audience doesn't know what it means. Clear labels and instructions, similar to, excuse me, the navigation comment from the beginning. You want people to understand what they're doing and what an action is going to lead to. Scannable content, people don't read. You want to be able to, you want someone to be able to look at your site and see at a glance what the content is about. So that means, again, proper hierarchy in your headings, bolded content, bulleted lists. You don't want line length that goes the full width of the screen because that makes it very hard to track. Easy form submission and information request. General rule of thumb, don't ask for more information than you need. For example, if you ask for zip code, you can get city and state from that. Don't make people fill out city, state, and zip. And if you're asking for additional information or even personal information like birth date or sometimes address, because you need it for the purpose of the form, give a little tooltip and say, we need this information to be sure that we're giving you a correct estimate or to make sure that you fit within our service area or whatever it is.
This actually I just did this yesterday. Somebody asked too many questions when I needed a media kit. And they wanted to know everything from what my budget was to what my, areas of interest were. That's too much information for me to give you. Just for a PDF that I'm requesting or prices. So I left the site. Happens every day.
Okay, here's an example too, a before example. There are so many things wrong here. We're just going to point out a few. This drop-down menu actually don't really know which label it's under, and there are too many things here. I have to read a lot to figure it out. More importantly, when you click get a quote here, the first thing that happens is this little pop-up comes up and it says choose what you need help with. So then you click one of those and it gives you another pop-up with a second set of options
In a completely different color.
completely different color palette. So overall, just not a great experience. What we did, to reduce friction, we simplified the request a quote form down to just the basic name, email required, and a phone optional, and what kind of policy do you need. Then we used conditional logic. So based on the answer, for example, if someone clicked personal insurance, then they would get this menu, what kind of personal insurance. So it doesn't look overwhelming when you first get to the screen. Additionally, we had an I'm not sure option because a lot of people probably wouldn't know. And then we just gave a little box that said, tell us more about what you need. So those are the 5 tips, but here's the bonus. Good user experience leads to good SEO and leads to good CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. How does that happen? So remember, we said why UX is important. It's important for people because when users have a good experience on your site, they'll engage with it, they'll return more often, and they'll refer other people to your site. For bots, when search engines know what your site is about, they will serve it at the top of search engine results pages for relevant queries. So that's the good SEO part. And it's good for your business because when prospects understand your business and can find the information they need, they're more likely to convert. So that's the conversion rate optimization part.
And while we sure hope that you got some value out of those 5 recommendations that we had, we at AM do have a website and marketing audit to kind of help assess the full scope of your needs and your marketing efforts. So it's a full review of your website, including actionable recommendations that you can take. But it also looks at your industry credibility, your overall accessibility, your marketing tactics, what you are and are not using to your advantage. And at the end of the day, it comes back with a pretty robust report on all of the improvements that we suggest making to your site and your user experience to get you more conversions in the end.
As well as to marketing strategy if necessary and
Correct.
social outreach and all that stuff. This is 2 slides from a 35-page deck example. So it's a robust response.
And we are offering Women's Net attendees and supporters 10% off of your website and marketing audit. If you contact us and mention Women's Net, we'll go ahead and give you that discount. Again, we do hope you guys had value, but we do offer the tools needed as well to help you along your journey.
Speaking of tools, we are gonna, in a minute, we'll put up a QR code for you guys to download this whole presentation. So, and these are all linked in here, so you can have full access to them. We put together just sort of a list of some of the things that we use at Accelerate Media Daily. This is a list of good blogs for not just usability, but conversion, SEO, digital marketing in general, what's going on in the world of search. So that's that list. These are tools, things like an accessibility checker where you can put your color contrast rate. You can put in your colors and it'll tell you if it passes and what level it passes at. Google Search Central, which is SEO tips. Search Console, which is really important for core web vitals and understanding your users. Growth Design is a resource of case studies and psychology principles and how they impact usability and user experience. Contrast Checker, mobile simulator for if you don't have a mobile device handy to check your website on. And our CRO library, we have put this is on our website. It's a great resource. It lists, I don't know how many dozens of sort of hypotheses and things you want to test when you're trying to increase conversions on your site. It lists how the effort level, the potential for return on investment, and how important it is to test it versus it being sort of a given. So that's linked there too. I highly recommend you check it out. There's a lot of valuable information there. So, Jama, can we leave this up while we take questions? Is that okay? Are you talking? You're muted.
Sure, that's fine. We can leave it up. So we'll go ahead and start asking some questions that you submitted. Some really interesting questions, and I do uh, see some of this in when we get some of our websites with applications. So I'm happy you're talking about them. So the first one is, my website is a single page that acts like a multiple page website. I use Google Analytics. Will Google provide data based on one page, or will it know to break up multiple pages based on the tabs?
So Google Analytics is a really robust tool that has a lot of capabilities. Unfortunately, it won't be able to track like your site in the way that you want it to, as in terms of different landing pages. It's actually just the one landing page. If you are more advanced in GA4, you can probably figure out ways to create events so that you know how many people are clicking on those anchor links that you have created on your page. But there really isn't a way to get it as more in-depth landing page information, and it's going to report all of the average time on site and engagement as that one landing page.
The reason is Google looks at the URL, and because even though you have tabs on the top or wherever that link to different sections on the page, it's still the same URL. With those anchor links that Sarah talked about, which you see it as a hashtag in the URL, Google doesn't recognize anything after that. So even though it looks like it's going to a different, the address in the bar is different, anything after the hashtag is not recognized. So if it's all on the same main page, that's all Google is going to see is that one page.
Awesome, thank you. So the key is main page. All right. Is it more beneficial to have e-commerce functionality built into my website or have a separate Shopify type e-commerce platform?
Obviously it depends on the specific situation, but 99.9% of the time, it should all be in the same place for a couple reasons. I think if it's a separate site where you can purchase versus the site where you learn, people will be confused. And you'll be competing with yourself in terms of visibility online. And I think, anywhere where you would create the e-commerce functionality, you would also have the ability to create those content pages too. So I think you're making work for yourself and your visitors probably too. It's better to combine them.
It's similar to the first example that we shared with the Simpor, who had their e-commerce site was the 10 Windows site. Comparing them allowed us to control more of the user journey and the messaging.
Interestingly, the reason they called the shopping site the 10 Windows is because literally that's what they sold. So that I can see why they would want that, but you can do that. You can still have it contained in the same site and have sort of a redirect or a vanity URL that lets people type 10 Windows and still find what they're looking for on the same whole site.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And is it better to optimize my site for bots and search engine optimization or for people and user experience? Ooh.
Both.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about Google, I won't say good because there's a lot of, both sides of the coin there, is that they really do look at user experience when ranking sites. So if you are creating a site that has quality content, that is a good user experience that people are engaging with, the Google bot is going to recognize that and therefore give you better SEO. So at the end of the day, optimizing for your user experience for people is really going to help you optimize for bots. So you'll be doing both of them in tandem, but always put your customers first. That's, yeah.
And there were a couple of questions that we got about from people asking us to personally look at their sites and give feedback. And unfortunately, we're not able to do that. But we are just an email away if anyone wants to contact us. And, especially look at the audit opportunities, we would be happy to give our opinions then.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, even just looking at your 5 tips that you gave us, even using that as a beginning benchmark into learning about how your website is performing is just so helpful. I know I learned a lot for myself based on, you can make pictures smaller and load faster. You can change your coloring a little and make your website a little more accessible. And even things like, having your phone number. So if you're using your phone and you just want to call, having that number work. I know for me that's important, and that's annoying when I can't do that. And so how awesome, and even using icons that people universally recognize. So super cool tips. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. And thank you, everyone, all of our Women's Net Network fans. We appreciate you. And we will be posting this webinar on our resource center in just a couple days. So if you've missed it or you know somebody who missed it, you can check it out there. We'll also send out an email about that. And again, any questions you have, Accelerate Media is there to answer your questions or do a deeper dive into your website. So thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jonna.
Yeah.